Hello everyone and welcome back for a video on the Tudors where I review here Jane Seymour in season 3 of the TV show The Tudors. There is a change of actress and that was only because there was a scheduling conflicts. Basically, Anita Broom, the ones who played Jane Seymour in season 2, was already contracted to film a movie, and so she couldn't film at the same time The Tudors, so she was replaced by Annabelle Wallis. What's very interesting though is that we have again the same type of woman. Now I've also done some more research on season 3 and the things that are happening, so let's debunk some myth, but also let's look at how she's represented. So we have here obviously the marriage of Jane and of Henry. So it's almost like the start of a new era. I think in the show they try to make you believe that it happened in Hampton Court, and actually it didn't. It happened in the Queen's Chapel at York Place. So not at Hampton Court, the marriage did not happen at Hampton Court. Then we have this, and I discussed this in the first video. So if you haven't watched it, maybe look at the first video where I review the first Jane Seymour. But there's a discussion where she's like, she wants to reinstate Mary, Princess Mary, and that's very interesting because, as I said, she never mentioned putting her back into being the heir apparent. And now that I've done more research on this, she doesn't even mention the succession. She just wants Princess Mary to be reinstated at court. And that's very interesting. I mean, do you see what I mean? She's not pushing for Mary to be being back in the line of succession. She's only doing that, and I think it's because of her former loyalty to Catherine of Aragon. And Jane Seymour was extremely Catholic, extremely pious, but we're gonna go into that for a moment. But she was also very serving Catherine of Aragon. Catherine of Aragon was the longest queen that she served, obviously. Then she served Anne Boleyn. And her loyalty went to Catherine of Aragon. I don't think she had very much of a good relationship with Anne Boleyn. And that is why she wanted Mary, Princess Mary, to be, to come back to court. But no, she never mentions, being an heir apparent. Obviously not, but even less, being in the line of succession. Jane Seymour is very set on having children of her own with Henry. And I think that is a very interesting thing that never appears in the show.
Especially as it is said that you are a peacemaker.
I promise you, Excellency, that I will continue to show favour to the Lady Mary and do my best to deserve the title of peacemaker you so gallantly have given me.
That is a very interesting scene here. It's between Eustace Shaprey and Jane Seymour. It actually happened. We know that one of the reasons as well why Jane Seymour is so much pushing for Princess Mary to come back to court is because Eustace Shaprey is having these audiences with her. Now, did it really call her a peacemaker? I don't think it appears that way in the source. I don't think it's a problem here because in a way she does represent that kind of a peacemaking by offering a truce between Princess Mary and Henry VIII. And she obviously doesn't extend that kind of love and kindness towards Princess Elizabeth. And people are like, oh, but that's not very nice. Princess Elizabeth needed that more than ever because she was so young. Yeah, she was so young. But also it would have been foolish of Jane of even let's say she was just this very kind person, and that she would have loved to show kindness to Elizabeth, because at the end of the day, Elizabeth was just a 2-3-year-old who had lost her mother and had nothing to, did nothing to deserve any of it. It was too risky for Jane Seymour to try to kind of get closer to Elizabeth, because Elizabeth is everything. She represents Anne. And Anne was executed for treason. So you don't really want to associate yourself with the daughter of a traitor. It's just too risky. So let's leave aside the fact that she might not have wanted herself because she didn't feel that closeness to Anne Boleyn. You might say maybe she would have felt that close to a little girl, probably. I don't see why not, but I think it would have been too risky, and that's one of the reasons why Jane Seymour was only kind to Mary and not necessarily kind to Elizabeth.
I know that things have not gone well for you since your husband was executed. I have been utterly abandoned. Even Mr. Cromwell has refused to answer my letters. Nothing was your fault. George Boleyn was his own keeper. I want you to come back to court, and I'd like to appoint you my principal lady-in-waiting.
This is a very interesting scene, because that is true that actually Jane showed a lot of compassion and kindness also towards the other Jane, Lady Rochford. And here it is true that she was made like the chief lady-in-waiting, and she's going to remain, Jane Rochford is going to remain chief lady-in-waiting to Anne of Cleves and then Catherine Howard, and then it's going to create her downfall. But so here that is like true Jane Seymour showed extreme kindness to Jane Rochford, Jane Boleyn. So in a way that they're following here what actually happened in history. Though I would argue that from the sources it seems that it's Jane Rochford that is asking for help, instead of Jane Seymour offering it. But here I think we're just in the move of like trying to make this queen so perfect and so nice and so kind. I think here it fits the fictional character that we have of Jane Seymour being so kind and the perfect queen, really.
Don't talk of such matters again.
In this scene, we see Jane Seymour being like, being told off by Henry VIII for basically sharing her concerns about the dissolution of monasteries. Now, what's very interesting that in the sources, and it's from French sources, so I dived into them, it is said that actually Henry VIII didn't rebuke her the way it is shown and it is portrayed historically. And actually what happened was that Henry refounded 2 dissolved monasteries and required them to provide prayers for Jane and himself. So he did listen to his wife. He tried to show like maybe a common ground, and he agreed not to dissolve all the monasteries. So he refounded 2 of them. However, when you really look as well in the sources, you realize that Jane Seymour benefited from the dissolution of monasteries. So when we have this argument that saying that Jane fought against the dissolution of monasteries, actually when you look in the facts and the finances, she benefited from it. She was funded by the money that came from the dissolution of monasteries. Some of her joint income derived from former monastic possessions. So here in this season 3, we really have a queen that is trying to make peace between Henry and his firstborn daughter, Princess Mary. But she's not talking about the succession. She's not talking about, definitely not talking about, Mary being heir apparent, as I discussed in my first video of the representation of Jane Seymour in the Tudors. And we have this scene, obviously, where she, said that, she thought that the dissolution of monasteries were not great, when actually it's more complicated than that. That first of all, she might have said it, and she might have said it specifically for 2 monasteries, and then Henry VIII actually refounded them for her, asking them to pray for her and him to have children and to be happy. But also what's very interesting is that she was herself, she received the money. I think she was conflicted between her faith and her religious beliefs, which were very much Catholic, but also she could not completely deny that there was some good stuff happening for her from the dissolution of monasteries by the fact that her personal wealth was increasing. So that's a very interesting take, and that it's why I think it's so interesting to look into history and actually what is said in the sources and what actually happened, because here it gives you a more complex view and complex portrayal of Queen Jane Seymour.
I've arranged for something else, which I hope with all my heart will make you very happy.
Have a very nice scene of Queen Jane and Princess Mary to show you their closeness, which I think is also historically accurate.
Lodgings at Hampton Court and others at Greenwich Palace. I have seen them both. They're beautiful.
I'm very grateful to His Majesty. And to you.
So here there is this Princess Mary who was grateful to Jane and who was very close to Jane. And we know also how close she became to Jane because Princess Mary was going to be made godmother of Jane's son, Edward VI, trying to create a stronger bond basically between Edward and Mary, despite the fact that obviously the age gap was bigger than the one between Edward and Elizabeth. And the fact that ultimately they would be raised later on, much later on, with Catherine Parr together. But that's very interesting because here I think the portrayal of having this kind of nice scene of the two women together works really well. Having Princess Mary saying that she's grateful to His Majesty and to her is also very much historically accurate. I really believe that Princess Mary felt gratitude towards Jane and the fact that she tried to reestablish her at court and to go back into her father's favour.
I would both like to present someone else to Your Majesty this Christmastide.
Very well. Je suis en famille.
Okay, so here we have the scene where Jane Seymour is allegedly with Princess Mary bringing back Princess Elizabeth, with Henry VIII saying, Je suis en famille, I'm with my family. This is where it's not historically accurate. Actually, Jane Seymour did not bring back Princess Elizabeth to court, and we've discussed it. It might have been too dangerous for her anyway, and maybe she just didn't like her because she didn't like Anne Boleyn. We have a source that said that actually Elizabeth was brought back at some point at court with Queen Jane, but actually Queen Jane had ordered the little child to be sat away from her, Princess Mary, and from Henry. So there was this kind of distance. So that scene is definitely like just to try to make Queen Jane as a peacemaker, Queen Jane as the good queen, Queen Jane as the perfect queen, the Queen Jane who is trying to establish a bond between, Henry VIII and his daughters. And that's absolutely not true. The one who really did that was obviously, well, first of all, there's going to be Anne of Cleves, but then there will be Catherine Parr. So it's absolutely not Jane who does that. She doesn't do anything for Elizabeth. And even, I'm going to go even further, during the time when Jane Seymour is queen, we know that Elizabeth doesn't even have clothes. She's not treated properly. She's completely neglected. So that's a proof just in itself that Jane Seymour did not go out of her way to provide and care for this little child. Again, there's probably just the reason that it was too risky for her to look after the daughter of a traitor, because ultimately Elizabeth was the daughter of a traitor, someone who had committed high treason against the king. That is not something small, it's something very dangerous, and I'm pretty sure that Jane Seymour knew this.
My love.
My queen.
Okay, I'm just not sure. I'm not buying this kind of love story here. I really am not. I just feel like the stories is just so romanticized in the show that is so untrue. You have all these scenes where obviously Henry really is fond of her. She's basically done her duty. And here you have her with Princess Mary, who's going to be made godmother to the...
Blessed sweet child.
Don't go. Just because you have done.
It's overall, this is a very romanticized but a very Barbie-like, I've said it before, of Jane. There are some bits that are very historically accurate, relationships to Mary probably, But they push it too far, and it's like she can't do anything wrong. She's just this perfect queen, and obviously there's just so much more to Jane. She's not just that perfect, and because no one is. And so like that's the thing that is missing, and I think that there are better portrayals of Queen Jane Seymour in other, shows that focus on the Tudors. So let me know in the comments what you think about this portrayal, what you think about this actress, this season 3. Yeah, let me know. I want to hear from you in the comments, so please do let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!